If I'm correct, that when you are filing charges in a capital case, that one of the things that happens is there are specific timelines that happen, including timelines around the appeal, that demonstrate there is some just cause for the filing of those capital charges because the cycles that go into establishing timeline and also the securities, including the sureties that are on cases as they are filed, including as they are filed and acknowledged by the clerk of the court, end up having a way that they can identify through whatever evidence or whatever else is submitted as part of the case, things that could be evidentiary. It's in the best possible example, the best possible universe. Now, I know technically how that could work. I could potentially do it myself, but because I'm constantly surveilled and subjected to completely illegal processes of expropriation, where there is constantly an effort to try to compel me to agree to relinquish what I'm doing so that it can be made available for commercial use that somebody else tries to ascribe themselves credit for, then we're in a situation where I have to go with the highest level of concern possible, which is an understanding that I am being attempted for enticement or extortion into cooperating with organized crime. Period. You've given me no other evidence that that's not exactly what's happening. So, in consideration of that, however, somebody else decided for whatever reason that they would put together that particular filing and try to justify it. And my whole thing has been, since I said within 72 hours, she does not have the authority to do what she did. Period. That should have been the end of the story. But that's not the end of the story. Because the entire aim is extortion and continuing to perpetuate extortion. As a matter of fact, the only reason that was sent at the time was as an act of extortion. So, what has accrued up to this point? First, the same magistrate judge was involved in a proceeding that was correlated with timelines that had been set up connected to my case specifically, that ended up correlating with my efforts to get a job. My efforts to get a job required me to do on site training. The day I did on site training, there was a terrorist attack in the city where I used to work, using laundering of assets in connection with accessing a pension fund or an investment fund that provided for the pension benefits from what was going to be my new job, that also correlated with providing pension benefits for other people employed in the same sector. Why should I have to say anything else? Obviously, it is what it is. Now, am I supposed to throw out or acknowledge or claim some sort of deaths as being evidentiary of what the charges are? M.K. Kurnatovsky. There were 4 Ukrainian soldiers murdered last week. 4. Strategically correlated with the date that would have corresponded with 2 4s from my readings on what would have been concerning American economics, which would have been basic, primary, adult education on the American financial system and the state of our economy, based on books that had been checked out from the public library, which could otherwise have attributed some appreciative value to municipal bonds that were set up on that library. But because you allowed for the library to illegally ban me and accuse me of doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing at a time frame when I was reviewing the Smith Act online, and you allowed security guards to attempt 3 times to intimidate me and evict me, while also allowing somebody else to use my library account for no less than 3 terrorist attacks in Texas involving chemical production or gas and oil facilities, then apparently, when I hit the benchmarks that otherwise would have been a positive contribution to the municipal pension system based upon having appropriate financing, because you literally trafficked me here in order to aid and abet organized crime, financing acts of terrorism, when I hit that benchmark in these books, it results in the murder of 4 members of the military in another country. Why that country? This is why It was not acceptable for the same so called magistrate judge to insert herself in processes connected to a request for consideration of one charge, as well as a request for a grievance process against colleagues on the bench. She should never have put her name and herself on both of those proceedings and then tried to swap back and forth for over a year while she traffics children to aid and abet acts of terrorism. You understand? I'm not filing that appeal. And you need to be removed ASAP. As a matter of fact, I think that tomorrow, removing you from the bench and stripping you of whatever the titles are accorded with it may be the insurance we need to make sure your diabolical plot does not actually get accomplished.